Hey, situation for you. Pre-COVID, it's lunchtime, you're at college, Taco Tuesday. You get 10 tacos, a large soda. You demolish them, even though it's against your better judgment. Time to go back to class. 30 minutes later, 45, uh-oh, it's time to pay the piper. You gotta excuse yourself from class. Oh man, you feel it. You're running down the hall. There's a lot of people. What is it, a convention or something? You're running, sweat's dripping down your face. You get to the bathroom. As soon as you're about to get there, you realize, oh, I didn't have to go to the bathroom. It's indigestion. As you're sitting there, catching your breath, thinking about your life choices, you notice something. What are those little funny dots on the bathroom sign? Now we've all been there, or maybe we haven't. Maybe it's just me. But the fact of the matter is, we've all seen these little dots. And as a fully blind individual and someone that's well acquainted with them, I'm here to tell you about it. Today, we're going to dive into the mystic world of braille. Those little dots, tactile bumps, so to speak. And we're really going to dive in. We're going to go over braille. What is it? Are there different kinds? We're going to do a brief history of braille and how it had its humble beginnings. And we're going to go over some equipment and things on how blind people can read and write. Now let's get down to it. Now our first stop on the Braille Express is the Information Center. And this is where we'll really be learning, what is Braille? Are there different kinds? Are there different types? What kind of language is it? Well, contrary to popular belief, Braille is not actually a language. It's more of a code. It's a code with tactile bumps that blind people can use to feel. Here, I have something that can be used to demonstrate. Right here, if you notice. Now the thing about Braille, as you can see, is two vertical lines of 3 and 3. And each Braille dot, this is a whole cell, is indicated by certain things. This would be dot 1, dot 2, dot 3, dot 4, dot 5, and dot 6. Now here's an example. Dot 1, just right here, by itself, that's actually an A. Dot 1 and 2, that's a B. And so on and so forth. So wait a minute. So we've got the cell. We know what a Braille cell is. Are there different types of Braille? Well, actually, there is. There's 4 types of Braille. And they go into grades. Grade 1 is probably the easiest in a way to understand for a non-blind person. It actually translates to A, B, C, D, where one specific dot or a cluster will be an alphabet, as in A, B, C, D, all the way 26. Numbers, it's a little iffy. I can get to that. Numbers is dots 3, 4, 5, 6, which looks like an L, and then whatever dot and that translates to numbers. Kind of difficult to wrap your mind around at first, but we'll get to it. Now, grade 2, this word is tricky. Grade 2 Braille, also known as contracted Braille, also known as short forms, is where there's certain clusters that mean something, as in, it's not just a letter. Prime example, kind of going back to our diagram. So dots 1 and dot 6 alone is the word child. Wait a minute, that's weird. How can 2 dots be a whole word? And that's the thing about Braille. Now dots 1 and 6 in front of other letters, and perhaps a word like chop, it'll be dots 1 and 6 represents the CH, then an O and then a P spelled out regularly. And that's the tricky thing about Braille. There are 189 different contractions in Braille, and Braille goes over different languages. English, French, Italian, just to name a few. Now grade 3. Now grade 3 is what I have to get the most acquainted with, which I'm still learning. This is also known as computer Braille. They have all the special characters and the other things, which is ideal for coding. The @ sign, the brackets, and all that. And it's generally called computer Braille, or like I said, grade 3. Now grade 4, not everyone learns this, but it's called Nemeth code. And that's a special form of Braille used for calculations and mathematics. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. All right, so now we've gone over Braille, some different types. Let's get our next stop. Hold on, Doc. We're gonna have to get the DeLorean for this one. Now, if you guessed from our Back to the Future reference, if you're old enough, we got to go back in time. We're going back to North Central France in the mid to early 1800s. Why are we going back, you see? because it all starts. Braille got its humble beginnings with a man called Louis Braille. Funny how that works like that. Louis Braille had humble beginnings. His father owned a leather shop, and that's how it all started, in a leather shop actually. But when he was 3 years old, I believe the year was 1912, he accidentally blinded himself with a sharp instrument in his father's leather shop. And due to inflammation and infection to his eyes, it resulted in his other eye also going blind, resulted in permanent blindness. But see, that didn't stop good old Louis. That didn't hold him back. So he was a smart kid, and he also liked to play instruments. When he was 15 years old, he single-handedly came up with the code for tactile reading for writing, numbers, and instruments. What we know as Braille today. He actually published the first book in 1829 when he was 20 years old on Braille. And that is how they say the rest is history. Come on, let's get back to DeLorean, on to our next stop. So, whoa, we learned about that. The next thing we gotta learn in our final stop on the Braille Express is the gift shop or the writing workshop. And this, my friends, is how we get it done. Now, there are a couple different ways to write Braille on some equipment. Here are some. The first of which can be easily translated to pen and paper for the sighted world, should I say. And it's called a slate and stylus. Now here we see, this is a slate. They come in different forms. They're all metal, this is plastic. It's on a piece of paper, but let me show you. Pull it off. This is actually the most primitive form of writing Braille and my least favorite, because it's hard. Here you go, here's a stylus, here's a slate. And see, what you do is, it's more difficult because normally when we read left to right in English, most languages. But in this, we actually have to put this on a piece of paper and flip it backwards. And you actually have to write, you gotta go and you poke little holes into it, into the cell, and write backwards. Right to left, so that way you can read it, flip the paper around, and read left to right. Man, it can get really difficult. Well, with that being said, let's go on to a more conventional way of writing Braille and in turn reading Braille. Here we have a trusty Perkins Braille typewriter. Perkins is the brand. Now you see, it looks like a regular typewriter, except you'll notice not quite as many keys. Well, here's the thing. Remember those trusty dots I was talking about? This is dot 1, dot 2, dot 3, dot 4, dot 5, dot 6, space, delete, and return. And it works just like a regular typewriter in that, see, then you reset the carriage, you insert the paper in the back, you know, it's been through some stuff. And here's the thing. You think that's old school? Let's get to the new school. Now right here, we have one of our final pieces of technology, cutting edge, back from the future. And this, my friends, is the Freedom Scientific Braille Display Focus 40. They call it Focus 40 because it has 40 refreshable cells along the bottom. And this works through Bluetooth or through wired connection. You can hook it up to your phone, your computer, any Bluetooth device, and it'll actually read what's on the screen. It'll pop up in Braille. Let me turn it on for you real quick. Maybe you can possibly see. It says. So here's the thing too. There's a Braille display, which is this, and then there's something called a Braille note. I don't have a Braille note, and these are very expensive. I think this specific model was $6,000 or $7,000. And a Braille note works independently without the machine, and you can compose documents such as in Word, if you surf the web or anything, and it's basically like an iPad. It has a similar setup to this, but it's much bigger. And as you can see, and right here, as you hold it, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you see right here, here are some other buttons you can navigate around, you know, left, right, up and down, so you can navigate websites or whatever it may be. Wow, that's a whole lot of stuff. Let me put this away. Wow, folks, that was the last stop on the Braille Express, and we sure learned a lot. We learned about braille, what it is, different types, the humble origins of braille. We learned about different equipment and methods to write, and I guess you could say read braille. Wow, that's a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I gotta get going because the next tour on the Braille Express is in 5 minutes. Have a good one.